This was during your first term when you were elected in 2011.
It was.
So Governor Jindal was the governor. At some point, you had to vote for the Speaker of the House. How were you approached in that election to vote for Speaker of the House? Did the governor point over and say it's going to be Charles Cleckley, or how did the race happen?
What happened? I can only say what happened to me. You know, what happened is that I got elected. There were a lot of new open seat state representative elections, and there were 3 people in my race. There was myself and two other candidates, and I had won in the first primary. So, but for those people who had runoffs, that was approximately 45 to 60 days later. So I actually got called right after I got elected. You know, there were still legislative races going on because they were in runoffs. But since I wasn't in a runoff, I got called very early on by a member of the administration, Scott Angel, is who it was, and asked me had I been contacted about the speaker's race. And I was in Disney World at the time, and my family, I went to one place, went to Disney World, you know, and I said no. And so when I got back, he asked me to give them a call. When I got back, I did, and was basically informed that Representative Cleckley from the Lake Charles area was running for Speaker, and that he was the governor's candidate. And the governor would appreciate the support. There were a couple other people running. Hunter Green, I think, had his hat in the ring for Speaker.
Another Republican, Democrat?
Another Republican. Joe Robideau, another Republican.
From
Lafayette was running. I got calls from Hunter, and I liked Hunter because Hunter, when I was running my campaign, he didn't have any opposition, and he really helped me. You know, he was from Baton Rouge area, and I had called him for some advice. And not only did he give me advice, but he really did help me, you know, in the campaign. And so I felt somewhat of an obligation to him. I didn't commit to him to vote for him, but I felt an obligation to him. And then Joe Robideau actually took a drive out to Albany one day and met with me and was, again, trying to, and this was all, again, right within 2 or 3 weeks after I'd won my election. There were still other races going on. Having said that, Chuck Cleckley called me. I met him for lunch at Subway in Livingston because I had court that day. And he told me he was running for Speaker, and he did. He was very honest. He had the support of the governor, and he thought he was going to win. And then I was non-committal then as well. And then right after the runoff elections, within a week, all the rest of the candidates, I think, dropped out. And when they dropped out, Mr. Cleckley was the only candidate, and he was the Speaker. And that was just understood that's the way it was going to be. And through the process, after talking to people, I pretty much learned, was educated, that the governor pretty much picked the Speaker. And the governor had a pretty good say-so on your not only your committee assignments, but who the chairman of those committees were going to be. And so that's kind of how that went down.